This is probably the most difficult slot to occupy in a conference right after lunch, programmed with not one but two parallel speakers, because we've got an online track now going. And hi, Kobus, we really miss you here. But I'm sure that our next speaker will be able to fill that slot massively, because we're friends, we're colleagues, and here's Norbert from Die Lautmaler with AR and VR in combination with conversational AI. Why should we care? And let me tell you, you should definitely care. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks. So first things first, hello. I'm Norbert. I'm from Die Lautmaler, and we are based in Berlin, Germany. So that's a warm hello from Berlin. Quick facts about Die Lautmaler and me. We are a full-service conversation user interface agency. We do this for voice interfaces, for chat-based interfaces, and for multimodal interfaces since almost 16, 17 years. As I mentioned, based in Berlin. We are quite a small company, around 10 people, but we are relying on a collective of peers, friends, and freelancers, including Micah. With that out of the way, I want to dive into the actual topic of why I'm here and want to talk about. Conversational user interfaces in VR, why should you care? And speaking of caring, I just cared to realize this morning that actually the logo of the chatbot conference slightly looks a bit like a VR headset you're looking into. And since we had just lunch, I'll try to be a bit engaging, not too much. But out of curiosity, with a quick show of hands, who of you have experienced VR already? Wow, that's much more than I have expected. And how many of you use those VR experiences mostly for gaming and entertainment? That's a good number. And I'm most curious, how many of you have used voice interfaces in any kind of VR experience yet? That makes two of us. That's amazing. Okay, so maybe it's a good, that's one of the triggers why we should reason about the combination of conversational user interfaces and virtual reality. To quickly set the stage, why should we actually care about virtual reality? So VR stands for applications that are built to be vivid experiences of reality, but there's more to it. So because they are not actual realities, they give us opportunities to actually build things that are not possible in reality. So right now I'm here, and I cannot just switch to, I don't know, Edinburgh from the 13th century, or I cannot switch into the future. I cannot just freely relocate and be on any other place in the world. Zoom in into realities, zoom out into realities. Just imagine how how interesting it would be if you could just zoom in a microbiological cell and explore by yourself how the inner workings are, what that would mean for your understanding. Or if you can zoom out into a view that encapsulates the whole planet, or even larger parts of the universe, what perspectives we could experience. And VR is one interface that allows us to do those things. But to put a bit more, reality in it, we looked into VR applications that are out there in the market, and first tried to identify, okay, is there more than gaming? And we found actually a lot of industries are benefiting from VR experiences. And I'm using also the term XR on those slides. Just to put it out of the way, XR stands for extended reality, and it's actually a family of realities ranging from augmented reality up to virtual reality, which I'll focus more Industries we see here: gaming and sports, marketing, sales, production, manufacturing, architecture, healthcare, training and education. I'll go a bit more into detail in just a second on each of them. But first, I want to emphasize a bit on what are actually the benefits that VR applications bring into the game. So we are able to prototype in an efficient way. We are able in VR to simulate. We are able with VR applications to travel in an easy way, travel in virtual reality. We can use VR applications to reduce cost. We can use VR applications to train users. We can train staff to use products or machines. And we can use them to bring actual physical products to market much faster by iterating on them when they are not even built yet. Okay? So, going real quick through some of those use cases. Gaming and sports, it's a prime use case. There's a lot of fun, a lot of things you can do when you engage with gaming and sports. Marketing and sales, just reason about the ability to showcase your product, have the users experience them, even customize them during the order process, even if they are not already produced. Production, manufacturing, there are many companies that have very complex procedures to build products and need staff that is trained to use those product facilities. Architecture and construction, just imagine you can explore or find errors in your plans to build something like an airport, which we did in Berlin, and come up with those through simulation with those errors up front and yeah, just prevent them. Healthcare, a very big field for VR applications, training medical staff on complex procedures. It's clearly benefiting for all the people who need to conduct those procedures like surgeries, but also for the patients, because they train in virtual reality and not on your body. And education, I think that's one of the prime use cases where virtual reality helps to immerse into the topic, the knowledge, and you're just a much better learner when you use educational applications. Training in general, a big topic, and this is not just stuff we found out by looking through the internet. There's actually some studies around that which are looking into the outcomes when learners use virtual reality throughout the process. So learners are faster trained, up to 4 times in comparison to classroom education. They're more confident in applying the things they've learned because they have experienced it firsthand. Employees or people that used virtual reality learning are emotionally more connected to the stuff they learned, and VR learners are just much more focused in applying that. So VR, to sum this up real quick, is a multimodal interface of the future, interactive and immersive as never before. Immersion is the key in every VR application, and VR is multimodal. So multimodal, that rings a bell. What modalities do we have there? These are actually something like speech, conversational interfaces. So how can those VR applications we just learned about benefit from conversational AI? 2023, I know you heard a lot of ChatGPT references. We also couldn't resist to make one. So we asked actually the question to ChatGPT, and those were some of the answers ChatGPT made up on why conversational AI is beneficial in virtual reality environment, but there are some good points in it. So let's have a look what we have to say about the topic, not ChatGPT. So our strong belief when we did research in that field is virtual reality and conversational user interface, that's a match made in heaven. Just reason about what does it mean that there is a match. Ideally, both parts that match are truly beneficial from each other. So how is that actually playing out? Conversational user interfaces, they benefit from capabilities VR environments bring to the table that solve many problems that we have today. So we're always talking about context, about world knowledge, about sensory input that could be beneficial for, just managing conversations, having good conversations that are human-like and real. VR applications tend to run on engines that provide a lot of those informations. And if you can combine them, conversational interfaces can greatly benefit from DVR capabilities. On the other end around, having an ability to chat and use good conversational use cases like help, assistance, guidance, teaching in a VR environment without the necessity to rely back on technology that's not really built for virtual reality, that's a clear win as well. So give you some very, very quick examples on how that could look like. Obviously, conversational interfaces can enrich or replace graphical menus. If you ever try to enter text on those virtual keyboards with the lighty pointers of yours, when you're on VR, that's not the best and ultimate way to do this. The next thing, so there are some examples, but I already got a clock, so I have to switch a bit faster. Provide context-sensitive answers. Also in combination with augmented reality, when you are traveling through the physical world, wherever you are, you can experience, for instance, a city tour where you can travel back in time, where you get explanation, where you get context, where you can actually immerse into important phases of a city while you just put on a headset. Other things are the abilities when you interact with other non-player characters or avatars in virtual environment to actually have human-like interactions, to create a form of bonding. And last but not least, there are productive VR applications for training, for instance, for cabin crews, policemen, firefighters, also for military applications. And they still are very much bound to the availability of human operators, which clearly is a limiting factor in scalability and availability of those kind of trainings, and require people to actually travel to a physical location to use VR to get the training because the operators are there. And create personalized onboardings that all falls into the category of training applications. So with all those information that we have learned and the identification, there are so many industries, there's so many good use cases. Let's start building them, right? So that's what you want to do. So the question were, can we just build them? It's partly yes, when we look at the technical components necessary to build a voice interface in a VR environment. It's the same checkboxes as we have for voice bots and other interactive environments. It's just that we add this VR headset into it. We need TDS, ASR, dialogue management. We need to integrate it with API services. We can integrate generative AI. So that's all good. We looked through a couple of the things that are available. Just real quick, I mean, Meta put a lot of effort into building devices. Obviously, they also built good speech integration into their products. There are all kind of cloud service integrations out there, so you can use your friendly neighbor ASR, TDS, and NLU services. There are also quite interesting projects that help you to deploy some of this functionality on device so that you're not depending on internet connectivity. And there is a gazillion of technologies that you can use to actually build truly emerging, immersive conversational UI applications. There are many platforms, so we thought, strange. It's all there. Why is nobody building it? Why is there only 2 people in this room who ever experienced speech interfaces in VR? And the answer is there are just a ton of challenges. Challenges like a gazillion of different hardware, platform, and accessories that you need to consider when you build for these environments. There's a huge variation in the maturity of VR equipment for audio processing and machine learning on those devices. There is a lot of considerations for all the problems around designing conversations, so it's very easy to fall into the uncanny valley. It's just around the corner. There are a certain amount of challenges around how do you apply linguistics into concepts like selection, disambiguation, and just orientation into the virtual room. That leads us to the conclusion. We already heard and we experience it every day that mastering one modality in the user interface is a tough thing. But to have true immersive, benefiting utilization of all the use cases we identified, there is the only way to do this in a good multimodal way. And doing it multimodal, mastering multimodality, it's many times harder than just one modality. So the conclusion, we think that it is absolutely worth looking into VR and AR use cases in industry to find fitting products for all kinds of benefiting scenarios by integrating conversational AI. We need to overcome those solutions. We don't want to be, we're a small company, so R&D is not our main business. So that's why we thought, okay, what are the steps we should take? There were a few steps. The first we took is we are looking for companions. So you see a couple of logos on that slide. We partnered with a virtual reality agency in Frankfurt that are building a lot of those applications, and we started to lay over our processes, our way of thinking, the different kinds of technology. We are started to partner with a couple of universities, and we are also partnering with open source companies like Jovo and Airy that provide us with the technology that we might need to actually build and overcome some of those challenges. Then we took a next step. After the research, we did some prototyping. So if you are keen to check it out, if you scan the QR code, there is a demonstration video of one of the prototypes we built. And we are currently working on a couple more of them to showcase and learn, improve and adapt, and maybe find the next thing after personal assistance and customer service for conversational interfaces to be beneficial. And with that, I'll ask everyone who's interested in, get in touch. We are the Loudmalers, and we are believing in VR and conversational AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Norbert. We do have time for one quick question, right? Just checking in the back, a thumbs up. Any questions from here, from the room? There's one over there, and I think there's a mic coming your way.
Thank you for your presentation. Question for you. So you mentioned at the end, having multiple modalities is the harder part, and a single modality is much easier. Can you give an example of a use case of where that would happen, whether it's something that is in your mind in an ideal state, or an example that you've seen in the real world?
So there are a couple of principal things you have to consider when you are supporting multiple modalities, right? So multimodal means all the modalities are available to the user to interact at the same time. When you are reasoning about VR use cases where people are actually with data gloves interacting with the scene and at the same time talking to that assistant that's also existing in the scene, it's hard to select what's the right modality to answer. If your modality is speech, but you say something and it should something in the physical world happen versus you get an audio response. So coordinating those different interaction channels, I think that's the biggest challenge we have discovered so far, but we are still on early stages.
Thank you. It's actually 1:30. That means that if there's one more question, we can take one on. We've been very efficient with our time. A short one. No more takers. Well, in that case, I'll give you a bit more time to change rooms if you want to, or to just kind of sit back and relax your afternoon lunch after lunch break, dip, whatever. And thank you so much, Norbert.
Thank you, Maaike.